Just decide. Decide the life you want. You can decide. You may not be able to decide the circumstances that happen in your life, but you get to decide the life you want. And as soon as you decide that, then you're able to take the steps that you need to take to get there.
Brings you down, 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 down to the ground. And it's hard when you can't see the light, 'cause things don't look so bright. So now it's time to reframe and retrain your brain. It's time to look for the good. You know that you should. Why don't you join me? 'Cause I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. Oh, oh, oh. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine. I'm seeking sunshine.
Welcome to the Seeking Sunshine podcast, where we're going to learn how to find the happy when life gets stormy. I'm Karaleigh Garrison, your host and guide on this incredible journey of self-discovery and empowerment. In a world that often seems clouded with negativity, this show is here to flip the script on how we perceive the world around us and everything life throws our way. We're on a mission to banish those negative mindsets and uncover the beauty that surrounds us. It's all about realizing that when you change your perspective, you reclaim your power. There is always something to be grateful for, but it starts by changing the way you look at it. Far too often, we view our lives through this really narrow lens of what is, and we miss the big picture. So the next time something bad happens, I dare you to reframe it and seek the sunshine and watch how it can transform your life. Remember, you need the darkness in order to see the light. Remember that there are trials in every blessing and blessings in every single trial. Seeking sunshine, this entire mindset, has changed my life, and I promise that it can change yours too. Trust in the power of your journey. Trust that your pain can become your purpose, and that your mess can be your message. Life is hard, but we can choose to be happy anyway. Welcome to Seeking Sunshine. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Seeking Sunshine podcast. I'm so excited that you are here today, and I am really happy to introduce our guest and today's episode because it is going to blow your mind. Today's guest is Dee Treadwell, and her story is a game changer. It is such an example to me personally, but to everybody. And when you hear her story, it's going to change your life. It really, really is. But before I get into her introduction, I wanted to make sure you know that this has quite the trigger warning attached to it. Dee's story is filled with a lot of trauma and abuse of all sorts. All sorts of stuff happens in her story, and I don't want to give anything away because that's part of the adventure you're about to go on. But what I want to promise you is that it's worth going on. This is a ride that is worth taking. There are a lot of dips, but there are also so many miracles. And the way that she flips the script every time, something horrific happens along her story and she finds the sunshine every single step of the way is such a beautiful example to every single person who hears it. This is a story that has to be told. And so even though I've been trying to, maybe steer clear of some of the harder stuff because maybe it's not always necessary for the really, really, really tough stuff to be heard, this is not one of those times. This is a story that has to be heard. There's not a lot of people who have, a more of a roller coaster ride than I feel like I did. A lot of people have been through like one really, really, really horrible thing, and she's been through a lot of really hard things. But because of that, she's such an example of overcoming. Like, it doesn't matter what you have been through, you're going to find something to relate to in her story. And what's incredible about that is that she shows us what is possible. She shows us how much strength you can draw from inside yourself, even when everything is crumbling around you, even when you are young, even when the world seems completely against you. She shows you what you can also be capable of, because if she can do it, you can do it too. This story will blow your mind and show you, it's just going to show you what's possible. And so that's one of the things that I've really wanted to focus on lately. I actually just redid the trailer for this show, so I encourage you to go check it out. But one of the things I want to focus on is with these interviews with people, like, the purpose of them is to show you what's possible. And Dee is such a beautiful light in that arena. She shows us how we can dig deep and find that strength and find gratitude no matter what is happening. And boy, did she have a lot happening. And yet she always found the light, found the gratitude, found the beauty every time. And so I want you to notice that as a pattern in her story. And so let me read her introduction real quick, because I want you to be able to hear her story. It's one you have to listen to. I know that it's a roller coaster of a journey. There's a lot of dips. There's a lot of miracles. And I promise you it's worth the emotional roller coaster. It's worth it. I promise you. I promise you it's worth it. All right. So Dee is the CEO and founder of Divine Nexus, and she's an intuitive resilience coach specializing in grief and trauma. With over 25 years of experience, she uses her education, expertise, and abilities to help you rebuild your life with clarity, confidence, and purpose. I am so grateful that Dee came and shared her story. She's amazing. Welcome, Dee. Hi, Dee. I'm so excited to have you today on the Seeking Sunshine podcast. How are you?
Hello, I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you have an incredible story, and I'm really, really excited to hear it and to share it with my audience. So let's just have you dive right in.
So it's a wild one. I hope that your audience is seated or at least comfortable as best. But I will say that it is something that has brought me to where I am. So remember, no matter where I go in my story, I hold gratitude for every step I've taken. So my story is ridiculous from the beginning. I tell people I hit the sheets wild. I was actually abandoned at birth at the hospital, and was later found in a children's home by my grandparents. Amazing human beings, like amazing human beings. Earth angels, I swear to it to this day. And they actually raised me and my brother, and grew us up in life and learning. And my grandmother was very authoritative but gentle at the same time. She knew something was different about me really, really early on, and she took it upon herself to foster that in me. So part of the adoption agreement was that I would attend a private Christian school. And in our community and our circle, that was kind of what was mandatory. So I did attend the private Christian school for a majority of my life. And I had some situations in life that tried to divert my path. And I'm like, okay, let's see what this one's going to be about. I had some trauma in regards to trying to refacilitate a relationship with my biological family. My my biological mother and father had tried for visitation or something of the sort. I don't really remember. I was too young. At which point I was exposed to sexual assault, and went through, started in therapy. My grandmother was very soft on the inside. And so she was a type of human that was able to just continually give me tools. Like, okay, we're going to try this. Oh, that didn't work. On to the next. Let's just keep going. We keep going no matter what. We keep going. And so she kind of just kept going. And it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing now because I'm the same way.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, she taught me how to step into my power at 4. Like, really like at 4, so and she just fostered that my whole life growing up. But I did the therapy, really didn't find a whole bunch of healing there. Learned a lot about myself. I definitely recommend therapy because I did learn a lot about myself. But the biggest thing that I learned is that it's no one thing ever. It's no one thing. We always have a compilation of experiences, but we also have a compilation of help. So the beautiful triangle of the therapy and my grandmother and things that I loved is what kind of helped me navigate those situations. And then I got the bright idea. Well, let me back up. So I was around 11, 12 when we noticed that something was physically wrong. And my grandmother immediately started in with having me seen and everything like that. And I was diagnosed very young with extreme polycystic ovarian syndrome. And to the point that I was not going to be able to have kids. Like I wasn't ovulating at all. I was having nothing like that. Like kids were just not in my future. They put me on a bunch of medicine to help kind of try to regulate some hormones. And mind you, I was 11, 12 years old.
That is
Yeah. So I had to start my journey with hormones and emotions very, very, very young. And so we had started a lot of that and was navigating that. And I got this bright idea, like, just let me try to help me get to 18. Like, just try to help me get to 18. If I can make it to 18, everything will be okay. And, we had the discussions about, chances of cancer were 80% more likely. I needed a hysterectomy. They were very adamant it needed to come out immediately. I talked them into just medicating me until I turned 18. I decided to jump on a plane and go 1,800 miles away from home and pack up everything I knew and loved and traveled the US by myself. Landed and met a guy and found out 3 months before my scheduled hysterectomy that I was in fact pregnant.
What?
Yeah. So my doctor knew that I was going on like this huge adventure, and she like made sure that I had prescriptions for like 6 months and all this stuff. And she's like, take it religiously. And I was like, I'm really just leaving this in the hands of the universe. You know what I mean? Like if I'm supposed to be a mom, I'm going to be a mom one way or another, right? So either I'm raising my own kids, or I'm raising other people's kids, or I'm raising kids that I adopt, or I'm teaching kids, or I'm something. There's going to be something. And so I was really confident in that. And then I found out I was pregnant. And the man that I was pregnant by was amazing. He was everything that I didn't know I wanted. And a remarkable man. And I was so young. I was like barely 18. And I was like, oh my gosh, like how did I even get this lucky? Like I really like must have paid some dues or something somewhere, because the universe really blessed me. And then he asked me to marry him. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Like, let's do it. And I was very honest, and I was like, this baby is about my journey to motherhood. It's not, to keep a relationship or to build a relationship or anything like that. And he was very adamant, no, let's get married. So we got married, and he immediately turned into a monster. Immediately. So I went through things that humans should never experience. I suffered my first traumatic brain injury due to physical abuse from him when he shoved me down the stairs, and I was 8 months pregnant with my daughter. And this was December-ish, and where we lived, there was snow and ice and stuff like that. And he had locked me out. And I remember just running because I knew that he was going to be behind me. And so I just kept running, and I should have said trigger warning. I'm sorry. But I remember hiding in this field and just thinking, oh my gosh, like, this is like, I made it through everything I made it through for this, like that can't be right. Like, that cannot be right. So I marched my tail right back up to the house, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to say a word. I'm not going to look at him. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to go in. I'm going to get some of my stuff, and I'm going to try to get out. I ended up hiding in a field, in a neighbor's, like, culvert is what they were called. And a neighbor actually found me, and took me to the hospital. I didn't even make it back up to the house. And he had taken me to the hospital, and that's when I was first diagnosed with my first TBI. And I went home and went into labor. And I was like, okay, I'm like 8.5 months. It's okay. Like, things should be good, right? Like, it's the 2000s. It'll be fine. So
that's scary. Their injury could have hurt the baby, not just you.
Yeah. So I begged him to take me to the hospital because I was in labor, and he was convinced that I had no idea what labor was, and how was I supposed to know? And I'm not a doctor, and if my water breaks, I'll know. That's when he'll take me. And I was like, oh gosh, okay. So I tried to take the car. At this point in our history, he had already taken my driver's license. He had already taken, now mind you, I'm 18. And he had taken the spark plug off of our vehicle, so I couldn't like use our vehicle even without the driver's license, because at that point I was going to the hospital. We lived out in the middle of 40 acres. So there was no like neighbor real close that I could just go call somebody. I wasn't allowed to have a phone, and the only TV I was allowed to have was one channel. And it was like some like repetitive news channel. But anyways, I digress. So I get to the hospital.
How did you?
So my biological mom actually showed up because she hadn't heard from us. And him and my stepdad were friends. And so I told her, I was like, I need to go to the hospital. And she was like, okay, let's go. And we get up there, and
kind of miraculous she showed up.
Yeah. And I'm not even going to say that it's probably not because she needed something, like the universe put her there at that point. Well, because had she not, we both would have died. Like,
it's like moms know.
Yeah.
Like moms know. There's just mom intuition of like, she knew you needed her.
Yeah. And we got to the hospital, and they started hooking me up to all the machines, and they're like, oh yeah, you're definitely contracting. Like these are definite contractions. Let's see baby's position. And they did the little fetal heart monitor thing, and nothing. And so they had me move to another area. And as soon as they moved me, I knew something was wrong. And they came in with the ultrasound, and they could not find her heartbeat. And the doctor looked at me, and he said, you didn't know? I was like,
that's a terrible question. Like, no.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about all the things I'm surviving right now. My medical degree wasn't in the books at that time, so I did not know. So I ended up having to give birth to my daughter and say my goodbyes all in the same day. And the greatest love I will ever know, because she not only made me a mom, but she made me a healer. And she showed me something that was in me that I never would have seen had she not come. And I just hold so much gratitude for the amount of time that I did have with her, and for the times that she did keep me alive, and for the purpose that she did give my life.
That's just hands down awe-inspiring to hear this story that would just tear anyone's heart out. And yet you've been able to not only heal from it, but to find gratitude in it. Like, that's what Seeking Sunshine's all about. But this is depth to Seeking Sunshine that I don't think we've even scratched yet. Like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I have a very, very, very deliberate method that I teach, and it works. That's why I teach it. And I used it myself. I'm not gonna preach to anybody things that I'm not willing to do myself, and perspective is key always. So if I'm able to hold the perspective through everything, so is everybody else. And I like to tell people too that it's okay if you can't hold perspective right now. I'll do it for right now until I teach you how to do it.
But hold the hope that you will one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I ended up being blessed again. Still in the very painful situation with my daughter's father. 2 more daughters came, and
through all of that.
I did. Yeah, I was terrified. The first year, so 3 months after she passed away, I don't really remember much about those 3 months, other than being utterly alone, feeling alone, and enjoying being alone. And kind of what snapped me out of it was I got a positive pregnancy test 3 months after I buried my daughter. Yeah. So made it through that pregnancy. She's here and she is hellfire and damnation. She is 20 years old to date. She takes 0 shits from anybody. So I just kind of poured all my strength into that one. And then a year later, I gave birth to another beautiful little girl. So 2002, 2003, and 2004, all born in January. I gave birth to my 3rd daughter, and she's just like my little ray of sunshine. Like, every time you looked at her, she's 19 now, and she's still a little ray of sunshine. Like, every time you looked at her, it was just, she had this glow about her. And I was like, holy crap, like, I made that. Like, I created her. Anyways, and so right about the time she was about 4 months old, things had started to kind of kick back up again. And I was like, yeah, we're no.
Now you perfect. Now you had someone else, 2 others, 3 others, 2 others to protect.
2 others to protect. Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't just about protecting me anymore. It was definitely like all about them. And I was like, how am I going to do this? Like, how I have to go home. Like, there's no other way. I have to go home. And I wrote home And I was like, I'm coming home. This is a mess and blah, blah, blah. Like, I just need to come home. And that's when I got word that my grandfather died.
They didn't tell you before that?
It had just happened. Everything had just happened. This is early 2000s. We were just starting to use cell phones. So I got a letter in the mail, and then which my grandmother had called, my neighbor had called for my grandmother to let me know, that he had passed and I needed to come home. Well, my now ex-husband decided that he had to go with us, for whatever reason. And so I go about the process and I'm like, okay, just more emotions I have to bury. I'm not allowed to feel this. I'm not allowed to, I have to just be everything for everybody and help everybody. And I have to bury everything I'm feeling and just do it and just go through the motions and just keep taking steps. Right. And so I was like, okay, I got this. And, after, we got the house sold and everything like that, and brought my grandmother back to where we were living with me. And I kind of just sat down in the middle of the floor and I was like, I'm not doing another thing until I have had a chance to feel something. I'm going to feel this one way or another. It's either going to be right now or it's going to be 15 years from now when my back is in shambles. I can't carry the weight of the world anymore. My hair's falling out. My teeth are decaying. My body physically is going to manifest this pain if I don't start processing it. And so I sat down and I cried it out, and I immediately started applying then the method that I'm teaching everybody now, 20, 30, 40, 50 times a day. Every time a new feeling would come up, I would apply it. Every time something else would come up, I would apply it. And it got me to a point where I was like, yes. Like now I take over the world. And filed for divorce, filed for sole custody to protect my kids, requested a no contact order. He walked right through every single one of those. The judge requested that I just be a better wife, and that he wouldn't approve my divorce because I just needed to be a better wife. And so and that, if I prayed about it, maybe, that God would help me be a better wife. And so I said, to hell with that. Absolutely not. I had my ass handed to me so many times at that point I couldn't even count. I actually, 2 months after I filed for divorce, right after the judge had made that order where he just wasn't approving it yet, I received my second traumatic brain injury from my now ex-husband. And it was okay, right? Because we were married and I wasn't duteous enough, and I wasn't, loving and nurturing enough, and I didn't meet his needs or his demands. Okay.
That.
At this point, this is whenever I found out that he was excessively addicted to methamphetamine. Yeah. So it had just progressed over the years, and my naivety kept me in a spot that I really should have got the hell out of a lot sooner. But the judge did grant, finally, the divorce. He would not grant the no contact order, and he gave my ex-husband sole custody of our children.
So because we're not using video, or we're just doing audio, my face is saying a whole lot more than my mouth, because my mouth is at a loss for words, but my face right now.
I know. Yeah. Holy cow, right? Yeah. I actually spent 30 days in jail over that order, because I told that judge exactly what I thought about him and who I thought he was, and how I hoped that he could sleep at night knowing that he was tormenting and torturing 2 babies at the hands of our abuser. And he told me, just because he abuses you doesn't mean that he's going to abuse them. So you're acknowledging then that you see the abuse with me and you're still giving him custody. Okay. Just so that we're on record with this. Yeah. So I went ahead and laid into him and got contempt of court to the extreme. I got 30 days in jail, which, it was worth every single day. I would go back and do it tenfold if I must. It felt very good, very good. And, I just kept stepping forward, I just kept stepping forward.
Applaud your ability. I mean, because you were still pretty young, right?
Yeah.
To know that was not okay, even though it was coming from this authority figure, to know that what he was saying was not right, not okay, and to be able to hold your ground, because so many people, even me, like at a young age, it's like, oh, they're an authority, so they must be right. No, that's
I've been bucking the system since I hit the sheets. It's just what it is. Anything, if it doesn't sit right with my soul, it's not okay. And it doesn't matter the parameters of which that falls. I don't care if it's the president of the US. I don't care if it's the chief of police. I don't care if it's every ordained minister across the country. I don't care. If what you're saying does not sit right on a soul level with me, then what you're saying is not right. And we all have that inner knowing. We all have that inner guidance. It's just giving ourselves permission to slow down enough to listen to it. And luckily I was raised by a woman who helped me hone that and helped me really tap into that. Anytime I had any question about what was going on, I knew that myself and my higher self had the answers already. It was just a matter of listening. So I was able to step into that. I appreciate the woohoo for that. Cause I understand, like I was like 21 years old, like I was a 21-year-old nobody, like with 2 kids and trying to figure out life. And yeah, it was crazy. And then I finally started feeling like I'm going to win this. Like I'm going to win this. I'm going to get my kids back. He's never going to talk to me again. Like if they say visitation, fine, it'll be supervised. At least my kids will be safe. And then my grandmother passed away.
No.
Yeah. And I was like, really, universe? Really? This is what we're doing right now.
There's a way. They just have a way of piling up all at once, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. Yeah.
And you're like, what?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I went through that process, and that was the first loss that I was able to really sit down with and feel as it was happening. Which then taught me a very, very valuable lesson about delayed grief, because it was at that point threefold. And I had all these experiences come up that like triggered the same emotions from before, and I was actually not allowed to say goodbye to her, because my biological mother at this point had sided with my ex-husband and wanted us to work things out and do better and be better and raise our children. And so she had testified against me. And so when my grandmother passed away, she had banned me from the hospital. So, but anyway, so I start in on this custody battle, and I'm like, I'm going to learn every legal term, notion, implication, or ideology that I can possibly learn. I right now have a degree in legal studies because of what I went through. Like an actual degree in legal studies. So I don't want to be an attorney because they can hold that against you. I want plausible deniability with it. But I did it, and I went through the process, and I fought, and just stayed fighting. I tried to keep my visitation. I tried to, if he was going to let me see them, I got them. If he would call and say, oh, they're here, go pick them up. And, I would do that. And then everybody disappeared. Nobody was answering their phones. Nobody was texting back. Nobody was at their homes, and nobody would tell me where my daughters were. And I did what any like human would do. And I'd be like, okay, so they're missing, right? Like they're missing. They're not in school. They're not in daycare. They're not in church. They're not, where are my kids? And so I filed a report and actually went and talked to DCFS and was like, you guys, like something's wrong. Like they're gone for a reason. Why are they gone? Like, I don't know if he messed up and did something he shouldn't have. And like, now I don't know, like, hiding.
Do it now.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't, I'm going to, and it's going to be a lot prettier if you do. And so DCFS at that point had actually told me that if I filed one more report with them, I would actually be prosecuted for harassment. Yeah. So I did the only natural thing I could think of, and I parked my car right out front where they would walk in and out when they came in the mornings and at night, when they came into work and left at night. And I parked there and slept in my car. So every time somebody else would come out, I would jump out and talk to them. And every time somebody else would pull up and go in, I would jump out and talk to them. I didn't care who they were, where they were from, or what they were doing. They were going to hear that there was 2 little girls that were missing. And nobody did anything. And 9 very long months went by before my children were found scavenging in a dumpster along an old country road. By chance. Obviously there's no such thing as chance, but the universe like just wrapped this huge golden bubble around them and was like, let's just keep them safe. And they were very, very young at the time. They were 5 and 6. And I got a phone call and it was just like, hey, Dee, I think these are your kids. And I was like, what? And I had been dating this man and we had gotten married, not during the 9 months, but just prior to them disappearing. And I think that that's actually what led to them disappearing. It was an act of aggression from my ex-husband because, I had started over without him. And so he wasn't going to allow me to see my kids as an act of punishment. But so we jump in the truck and we haul ass, and guess who it is? It's my kids. So I picked them up. We had no idea where their dad was or any other adult for that matter. So I immediately took them to the hospital to get them checked out, filed for a no contact order, an emergency custody order, and all the stuffs. We filed all the stuffs, and it was granted.
Which point out like how, like what a hellhole the paperwork is for all that stuff. Like it's not just like, oh yeah, we just signed our date. No, it's like hours and hours of grueling paperwork. Like it's not some just like easy throwaway thing. That's so freaking hard.
Yeah. And not to mention the fact that you're having to revisit all the incidences that happened, and the children are having to be interviewed. And yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. And so we, by chance, by the grace of a higher power, it was granted. And we were finally at a point to where we were like, okay, like we got this, like, this is over. Like, this is it. Nobody's going to look at this and be like, no, it needs to go back. And so we were happy and immediately put the kids into counseling and started with like play therapy and started like acclimating them in. My husband at the time he was a saint. I don't know how he managed my chaos, but he was like the perfect sail in my storms. And he always helped keep me focused. He was like, yeah, you could feel all that, but we're still taking steps forward, right? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And he's like, okay. And I never had to tell him to keep up. He just would keep up. And so,
guys, I just wanted to pause here for 1 second to let you know about the awesome thing that I'm doing right now. I am so excited to announce that I'm offering a custom song experience for a small number of people. This is your chance to take your story, your podcast, or your business even, and turn it into an incredible, timeless work that will bring back beautiful, loving emotions for decades to come. This is such a perfect gift for your spouse, for a newborn baby, or for a parent, and it's a really great way to embody your business or your podcast's mission. We're going to meet together several times and deep dive into the message and emotion you want to convey to make sure that you're getting something that you absolutely adore. A custom song is an incredible asset for advertising, for lifting team spirit, and for encapsulating family memories. If you are interested in a custom song, please email customsongs@KaraleighGarrison.com.
In the following months, we had to go through every hoop, that the courts were like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. Well, then my ex-husband decided that he didn't like doing all those things. And so we were going back to court, and he dragged me back into court, and the judge gave him the kids back.
Was it the same judge?
It was.
New judge. That judge is terrible judgment.
He refused to recuse himself. We tried like 8 times. Yeah, he refused to recuse himself. Yeah. And so
which alone, I refuse to recuse, like that alone. Just
that in and of itself should be a red flag. Yeah, absolutely. So we started the whole process basically from square one. Just my girls were a little bit older and had a little bit of help underneath the belt from the therapy that they had been attending so far. So I had used that time that I did have them with working on a safety plan so that they had it down pat. No matter what happened, there was a safety plan. We had a safe word that they could just say the safe word and mom would know. It didn't matter what the situation was, mom was coming. Like, just use the safe word. And it was a word that wouldn't trigger anybody thinking anything. And if we were on phone, nobody would think twice about it, and so I would just know, and I would know to come. And so, we had this magical plan that worked. It worked. And this is where I get emotional because it worked. So about the ages of 12 and 13, I get a phone call, and it's my daughter, and it's snowing. And she's like, Mom, I'm so cold. I'm so cold. And I'm like, what? Why are you cold, baby? Where are you? Go inside. Mom, we're locked out. Okay. And then she used the word. And so I just immediately went into calm her, keep her safe. I'm already on my way, baby. What are you talking about? The second my phone rang, I was on my way. It's fine. I'm already on my way. But we had this intricate plan set up to where I would enact this train that would pull them out. And so the person who was the one that was supposed to retrieve them got there, and he had thrown them out and locked the door in the snow with nothing but a backpack. And he was inside screaming about how he was going to take his own life and how he was done with this, and how, if his wife didn't come home because he had remarried, and if I wouldn't talk to him and this and that, and he was just going to end it all, and screw those kids and blah blah blah. And so I got my kids. Immediately went back to court and was like, no more, period, end of story, transfer us. They refused to transfer us, so I transferred us in the only way that I knew how, and I moved counties, which made it my legal right to go to a different district. And I went in front of a new judge, and I will never forget this judge's words, because he just shook his head the whole time he was reading our file. And he was like, "You mean to tell me we could have saved them before all of this?" And I was like, oh my God, he's listening. He gets it. He hears what's happening. He had called my ex-husband into court, and my ex-husband showed up at his, whenever he chose to, which is just how he did everything. And the judge looked at him and he was like, "You're not from here, are you?" And he was like, "No, sir, I'm from, yada, yada, yada." And he's like, "Okay. Could you pass a drug test right now?" Probably not. That was the first time I'd ever heard someone in authority call him on what he's been doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what? And then my attorney turned around and he looked at me. He said, "Can you pass a drug test?" I was like, "I can. Yes, absolutely. We all can. My whole family can. Everybody can. I promise you." And he was like, "Okay, I just want to make sure." He's like, "I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page here." And he tells the judge, he said, "Yeah, I could pass a drug test, but you're not going to give me to pee in a cup." And he was like, "Well, we can take blood if you prefer." And he was like, "No. I'll do the urine test." And he goes, "Okay, well, if you go through these doors, this is my bailiff, we'll go ahead and do it now." And he goes, "Oh, right now?" And he was like, well, yeah. He's
Wow,
He said, "Oh, I don't go to a testing facility." And the judge looked at him and giggled and said, "That's how you do it." And he was like, "Excuse me, Your Honor, I don't know what you mean." And the judge was like, "You get the order, then you go practice for your test, and then you show up for it." He said, "Yeah, we're not doing that today. We're testing right now. If you want to see your children again, go take that drug test." So he went in and he acted as though he was going to take the drug test. But then once he got in the back, all we could hear was him kicking the walls, punching the walls, threatening to kill people and himself, and refusing to take the drug test. And he even spent the night in jail because he refused to take the drug test. And I went and took mine, and obviously it was clean. And my husband went and took his, and that was clean. And the judge was like, "I see no reason to send them home with you with a," he said, "Let's go ahead and start with a 12-month no contact order." I said, 12 months? Mind you, I couldn't even get 2 days at this point. And he was like, "Yeah," he said, "I'm comfortable with 12 months. He said, let's review. If he passes a drug test, if he decides to take this drug test before he leaves and he passes it," he said, "then I'll call you back in." He said, "But for right now, let's let you leave here with 12 months.
Can we just talk about for 1 second the power of somebody freaking believe? Like, and I've heard just so many times, experienced it in my own ways of just like going through hell and back and having somebody finally believe you. It is.
You needing to be seen is a primal need. Like, it's a primal urge. It's a primal experience. Like, we as humans need to be seen by other humans. We're not these robots that we try to convince each other that we are. We need to be seen, and we need to be heard, and we need to be validated.
And so many people in positions of authority, in my experience, mostly we've had some experiences with law and justice, an absolute nightmare. But the biggest ones I've had are with doctors, and I've had people, who it's like person after person didn't believe him, and then finally that one person and saved her from a year of hell. Like, I had her up. That was an amazing story. But like with mine, I've got 3 special needs kids, and mine is severely, and he is also type 1 diabetic. And like, I took him to the doctor, and she didn't even look at him. She was like, "Well, he's got and it was like, just didn't even see him."
Yeah.
And it's just, okay, the power of freaking listening to somebody
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
being willing to believe them. Like we can all offer that to each other. It doesn't have to be someone in authority. I mean, although goodness gracious, like if more people in authority could see
Yeah.
people as people,
I have 2 goals with telling my story. I have 2 life mission goals with sharing my story. Number 1 is I want anybody who is even remotely in any position I was ever in to find their fire. And I want anybody who is in a position of authority to understand that this is a crippling epidemic. And if we don't start somewhere by listening, then it's going to get a lot worse. It's going to get a lot worse. So fast forward, we got our 12 months and we're in school and we're in therapy and we're doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing. And I like 10,000 pounds off of my chest and my kids are smiling again. And I'm starting to hear their laughs and I'm also listening to their cries and starting to hear their stories of things that they had survived and processing that and utilizing my method and stuff. And a year came around and it was like, it blew by. And I was like, crap, it's time to go to court. And so we went back to court and he showed up and he was very composed and very calm and collected and didn't act crazy. And I was like, wow, maybe he used this year to like get it together. Yeah, maybe he really used this year to get it together. So the judge asked him, what he'd been doing with his year. And that's when we learned that he had been in prison for manufacturing methamphetamine. So I was like, oh, or he didn't. Okay. Okay. So the judge asked how we had used our year and, we told him and he said, I don't usually do this. He said, but I want to talk to the oldest. And I was like, okay. Like I didn't want to put her in that position, but she deserved to be heard.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's just hard for kids to feel pressured to be like,
yeah,
okay.
I didn't want her to feel like she was choosing or having to be the one that decided, or for anybody to be upset with her because of something she had said, what, tipped the scales or anything. But so we postponed and she went in and she spoke her piece and nobody else was in there. It was just her and the judge and the attorney. It was just them. And I have no idea to this day what was said and I never will know. And that's okay. That's not between me. And he came out and he asked for follow-up drug screenings from both of us. And we both did the drug screenings. And my ex even passed it, which, that's great. And he said, yeah, if I do this by the books, I would be doing supervised visitation for 6 months. And then we would revisit for overnight visits by 1 year. And I was like, okay. Okay. So that's what I was, okay. We're going by the books. This is what I'm going into. And I had started to prepare myself and he said, I need to adjourn. And so he adjourned and I have no idea what that man did in that meantime, but my attorney came running down the hallway screaming, get in here now. And so we hauled ass, got our butts back in the courtroom. And the judge said everything in me and my gut is telling me, do not ever let him touch these kids again. He said, so you are walking out of here today with a 10-year no contact order. Your children will be 20 and 21 before he can ever contact them again.
My absolute firm conviction is that he went back there and he prayed. Like I just like that.
He had to have. I mean, he stopped and he listened.
Sometimes the books are not right.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the books are built to be destructive. The system is not failing. The system was built that way. So we immediately went downstairs, and my husband filed to petition to adopt. And the same judge actually came down, and he was like, I was hoping I would see this. He was like, I was hoping I would see this.
Yeah.
Because he'd asked my husband at the time, before the order, he'd said, if something was to happen and he couldn't be their dad, how could I be okay with turning children loose in the world without a father? And my husband spoke his piece on it.
That's a great question. I don't think I've ever heard that level of care.
Yeah. Yeah. This judge was remarkable. He was truly remarkable. And I know that I say that a lot about a lot of people, but there are just lots of people like that if you can find them. If you just look for them, look for the helpers, right? And so he was really happy for us. And he said, I can't wait to see till that goes through. That was January 26th of 2016. One of the greatest days of my life. And we got our court date for May 7th, I think it was, that we would go in for the adoption to be finalized, and the kids would get his last name, and we'd have our little moment. And I get a knock on my door in April of 2016.
I have a hunch of what's coming next that I'm really just no.
It's the coroner, and they had found my husband dead.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. The average age of a widow is 55, and I was 33 with 5 children. Yeah. And I will never forget, I don't even remember half of what the coroner said to me, because I was going through my method in my head on repeat. And so I saw his mouth moving, but that's literally it. And
can I ask what happened?
He was an industrial roofer, and it was a work accident. It was a vehicle issue. But essentially he had massive amounts of carbon monoxide in his system, and they weren't even sure how he had gotten up and gone to work that day. It had just built up. And we have this family joke, which is probably inappropriate, but I used to tell him all the time, this truck stinks. You need to go get it looked at. Something's wrong with it. And he was like, oh, it just smells like money, because he was an industrial roofer. And so everything was fried. So he couldn't smell it. And I guess it had just built up over time, but I digress. Anyway, so I just started going through my method in my head over and over. And then my dad showed up, my stepdad had showed up, and I was like, he's here and he's upset. And then I'm like, I'm upset. And I just kept replaying, and I let him just kind of talk to him. And I just sat there and going through the motions. And I remember I made my first phone call to one of my dearest friends, and she was like, honey, what's wrong? Because I was barely forming words at this point. And I was just like, he's dead. He's dead. He's dead. He's not coming home.
It's yourself.
Yeah. And she was like, oh my God. And I was like,
how long have you guys been together?
We were together 8 years. Yeah. And I was just like, I remember telling her, the first thing I told her about everything is I was just like, I am just so immensely grateful that I had him for 8 years. My kids got to see what a dad is supposed to be. They got to see that a dad works hard, and a dad loves mom, and a dad loves them, and a dad doesn't hit and hurt and disappear and all those things, and I didn't really lose it until we were all kind of in the living room and sleeping in the living room. We needed to all kind of be close together. And my kids kept waking me up crying in their sleep. And specifically, my oldest with my ex-husband. And hers were out of fear because he was coming back now. So.
Because the dad, the protector, is gone.
Yeah. We had his funeral, and there's a whole bunch that goes into that. That'll be in my book. Keep an eye out for that someday. But had his funeral and got home from the funeral, and there was somebody I didn't know standing on my porch. And I was like, really? We're doing this again? Like, and I'm counting heads, mind you. Like, I'm counting like my people, my little people's heads. Like, everybody's here. We're accounted for. Who are you? It was a summons to appear before a judge for sole custody of my 2 children.
For your ex. Even though there was a 10-year no contact that had not yet. You're like, this is what I need to do.
Yeah, he managed to get the no contact order dissolved.
How?
Through a different judge. The same judge, mind you, that kept giving him custody.
Yeah.
The only difference is I was a whole lot wiser this time. And under duress, I signed the order. I didn't have any other option at the time. There was a material change of circumstance. My husband had just died. So that was his complaint for the order. So, I mean, it was true, I couldn't deny that was true. And I didn't have it in me at the point to counter. But what I was able to do is I was able, all those years that I had them and all that time that I had them and any point that I had them, make sure, that they were able to see the same therapist each and every time.
That is amazing, because that therapist can testify.
And so the therapist made her input that she just didn't feel like it was in the best interest to force the children, that the order is what the order is, and she has no bearing in that, but that she could not recommend that I force visitation with the children. At this time, the children were 13 and 14. I didn't. I just didn't.
So they'd only been with you guys for like a year.
Yeah, it was right at the year mark, because January 26th, 2016, we got the no contact order, and then he passed in April.
Wow.
Yeah. 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 And then crazy life things happened, and I started coaching online to be at home with my kids, to be able to be present and available to my kids. I was going up to the schools every day, every other day. I was getting phone calls about nervous breakdowns and panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and we were navigating all that stuff. And so I needed to be present. And Divine Nexus is a beautiful thing. That's my company. And I had worked with clients for years at this point, but I needed to move it digitally. I needed to move it to like the social platforms and stuff. And so that's what I did. I took 2 years and I just did that. And I didn't let anything around me bother me. I used my method to navigate life in the way that I felt was best for all of us. And I started feeling the pull to get the heck out of there. Just leave, just pack it all up and just go. And when you lose a spouse, specifically grief in general, but spouse specifically, they tell you, no big decisions for 1 year. And so I stayed my 1 year, and I served my time, and my air quotes, my time. And I still felt that I had to get out. I had to get out of there. I had to get away. Everything there was pain and hurt and anxiety and stress and hurt. And yeah, so I packed everything up and I moved to this glorious, beautiful state in which I live now. And the weather's always nice. The water's always warm, and nobody can come get me here. Better yet, my children have aged out now and they are in complete control of their own lives. I have 3 beautiful grandbabies. I have a 5-year-old grandson, a 2-year-old grandson, and a 7-month-old granddaughter. And I'm only 40, but like everything in my life has always happened way quick, like really fast. And I've had all these lifetimes in one, so it only makes sense that I'm a young grandma. And so now I'm like, not just in my divine power, but like I'm in my divine Mimi power now. So like now I get to just kind of sit back and just nod and smile at they are here and they exist
Because of you.
because I survived.
Because you fought.
Yeah. Yeah.
You fought for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, your story is very, very powerful.
That's just where I am today. And now I spend every single day of my life trying to teach other people that just decide the life you want. You can decide. You may not be able to decide the circumstances that happen in your life, but you get to decide the life you want. And as soon as you decide that, then you're able to take the steps that you need to take to get there.
So as we have to wrap up here, how we can follow you, how we can find more about your coaching business, and if you feel so inclined, I would love to hear just the brief snippet of what your method involves, if you're willing to share it. And if you're not, I understand.
Okay, so how about I go one better? And how about I offer anybody who's interested in my method can hop on a free call with me.
That's amazing.
I will open up time in my calendar. I will set aside time, for the next couple of weeks, once this airs, and I will set aside some time. If they let me know that they found me here, on Seeking Sunshine, then we'll make it a little extra special. But the Divine Dive is just that. It's the Divine Dive. And it's through Divine Nexus. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, I'm there. I don't like all the things. TikTok is another platform I'm on too. I do have a free empowerment group here on Facebook. It's just Divine Nexus with Dee, or there on Facebook. It's just Divine Nexus with Dee. Super easy to find. If you find Divine Nexus, you'll find me. And I go live in there every week and kind of help people navigate things that they're dealing with and stuff like that, and teach some of these methods that I use and everything like that. And then I have the 45-day boot camp that if people are interested in, they can say, hey, I need to know more about that. Like, I'm ready to take control of my life back. I'm sick of just surviving. I'm ready to thrive. And I also have a free giveaway too. So I will be sure to send that to you, but it is called Thrive. Literally just Thrive. And it has a workbook attached to it, so they can print it. They can listen to the video and work along with the workbook. And I'll get that to you so that they can see it. But Divine Nexus on Facebook, that's pretty much where I exist. I'm a mom, I'm a 40-year-old mom. Like, Facebook's where I'm at, yeah. So, I mean, I'm everywhere else too, but like majority of the time.
Yes, I get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just, your story is incredible, and I'm honored to be able to listen to it today.
I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to tell my story. I just hope that anybody who may be struggling knows that they don't have to struggle alone. And there are people out there that will listen. And there are people out there that do care and look for the lighthouses.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. If you need anything from me, just holler at me and let me know.
I will. All right. Have an incredible day.
You too, hun. You too. Bye.
Oh, Dee, thank you so much for coming on the Seeking Sunshine podcast and sharing that epic adventure with us. It truly inspired me, and I hope that it has inspired everybody who listened to. I'm sure that it has changed lives. I really am. So here are my very favorite takeaways. Number 1, let's just keep going. We keep going. No matter what, we keep going. Number 2, it's no one thing ever. It's no one thing. We always have a compilation of experiences, but we also have a compilation of help. Number 3, perspective is key, always. If I'm able to hold the perspective through everything, so is everybody else. It's okay if you can't hold the perspective right now. I'll do it for you right now until I teach you how to do it. Number 4, we all have that inner knowing. We all have that inner guidance. It's just giving ourselves permission to slow down enough to listen to it. Number 5, needing to be seen is a primal need. We as humans need to be seen by other humans. We need to be seen, we need to be heard, and we need to be validated. Number 6, decide. Decide the life you want. You can decide. You may not be able to decide the circumstances that happen in your life, but you get to decide the life you want. And as soon as you decide that, then you're able to take the steps you need to get there. And number 7, you don't have to struggle alone. There are people out there who will listen. There are people out there who do care. Look for the lighthouses. Oh my gosh, Dee shows me what's possible. After everything I've been through in my life, Dee shows me what true strength really is. And I'm so grateful for her example. I hope that you guys will share this episode with somebody who needs it. And we're just going to leave it at that. I hope that you have an amazing day. And I hope that you know how strong you are. And I hope that you know the power that is inside of you right now. Have an amazing day, and I'm going to leave you with a song.